What's up, all my soldiers? This is CGT Reacts. I'm about to react to a fucking CIA officer basically trying to reveal secrets and shit like that, supposedly. That shit stupid, really. Really. Let's be real. Why the fuck would a CIA officer who was hired by the CIA expose CIA shit, right? That's what I be thinking. But we gonna see what the fuck this nigga gotta say. I don't believe this shit already. I'm gonna be real. But um we can dig through the subversion and shit like that. And then in the middle of this, I'm gonna try to show another video. It's kind of a fucking documentary, so I'm gonna have to skip through it a little bit and see what his good parts at. But yeah, let's go.
Ralph, how long were you with the CIA? I was with them 25 years. I joined in 1952. I retired in 1977. What was your function? What was your job? I had a variety of jobs. I was a case officer, intelligence collection. I was a covert operator. I was involved in paramilitary operations. In the last 4 years with the agency, I was an analyst with the International Crime Branch. Paramilitary operations where? In Thailand and to a degree in Vietnam. How do you view the CIA? Let me rephrase the question. A good many of us do not have a clear picture of what the CIA does. I think many of us believe it is an intelligence gathering agency, that it gets information. That information becomes intelligence, and then it passes it on to key areas in the government. Is that an accurate impression? No, it isn't. It's my view, and it's supportable by all the evidence you can see in the Church Committee report, the Fight Committee report, and other collateral information. The CIA is not an intelligence agency. It's a covert action agency. Covert action being overthrowing or supporting foreign governments. Another part of covert action is disinformation. And the American people, in my estimation, are the primary target audience of the agency's disinformation operation. And I view Vietnam, the entire Vietnam War, was brought to us and sold to us by agency disinformation operations. When I say us, I mean the American people.
Okay, he going in so far. I ain't gonna flex. But only thing creepy is don't call me no conspiracy theorist either, bro. I'm not even on that. I don't even think like that no more, really. But why the fuck this nigga hands like that though? Huh?
Well, that had to be done, of course, through the press. How else would one reach the American public? Well, how does the CIA develop its relationship with the press? Well, it happens on many levels in many different ways. It could be a director of agency contact with the publisher, or it could be a lower level agency employee with a lower level person, managing editor, or it could be hiring agency people, and placing them in the news organization, or it could be giving information to a reporter and winning his goodwill. It could be just a friendship sort of basis. It sort of covers the skein of relationships that you can have, in any social situation. This relationship demands participation on the part of the press, though, does it not? Oh, of course. Well, how does it participate? It can participate in many ways. It can publish articles that the agency wants published. Because the CIA
Especially online nowadays.
Well, both. Unknowingly, most of the time, I would guess. And sometimes the information is passed to a reporter as valid information, a good scoop, if you will, when it's just planted propaganda. So the agency uses the press in numerous ways to achieve its, what I call, illusion building properties. When you were
so when that nigga, so when I be going up there and on the podcast and I show y'all a whole bunch of Jimmy Dore shit, it's because this nigga Jimmy Dore be on top of that shit, kinda. Not all the way. Not saying this man perfect or whatever, boy. Nobody is. But he calls out a lot of these CIA agents, especially in the government, already elected in the government, and different people inside of corporate positions of power. So just to hear my nigga Ralph McGee right here, former CIA officer Ralph McGee, go ahead and calling this shit out. It ain't no surprise, really.
Did you have any
Honestly.
connection with the press? No, I didn't. I do know of the case of the press in Saigon in the early 50s, where they were meeting directly with Colonel Lansdale. 5 members of the most prestigious newspaper in the United States were meeting with Colonel Lansdale, the agency's man in Saigon. And how often would they meet? Quite frequently. I don't know the exact frequency. But you will look at the press coverage for that era, and you'll find no mention of agency activities in the press. Yet the agency was totally responsible for the creation of the Diem regime. It created the Diem regime. It built an illusion about the Diem regime, and used the press to sell the illusion to the United States. The illusion that lives on today in the United States. Do you think that those 5 members of whom you speak had any idea that they were being used? The atmosphere of those days, where the press and the government were so in tune on the issues, that I believe it was a very much a cooperative effort, more than the press viewed the situation as the government did, and both cooperating and putting across the stories. The CIA were good folks with which one could be associated. Was that what you're saying at that time? At that time, yes. Of course, the agency developed what they called Wisner's Wurlitzer. That was what they call an organ that he could play any tune he wanted anywhere in the world at any time. Supposedly they owned one newspaper in any country of the world, and whatever articles they want run, whatever themes that they wanted to propagate, all they had to do was just press the right buttons, and those articles and themes would come up.
I should have put this on a podcast.
I think we'd like to know who Wisner was. Wisner was a former deputy chief of the operations branch of the CIA. And he created the Wurlitzer. He created the Wurlitzer. And we find now, this came under the corporate action staff of the agency, and from recent information, William Casey is concentrating all his efforts in rebuilding the agency in developing the corporate action staff. That's the staff that develops in international organizations, international press organizations, international organizations of all types that penetrate press, religious, academic.
And I think this was released in when, the 80s or the 90s or some shit?
This is where he's concentrating the rebuilding effort. Why does the CIA do this? What is the objective of the CIA when they put out disinformation, when they, you might say, co-opt the press? One function of the agency is noted by the Church Committee, to create an international anti-communist ideology. What's my thesis? The reason you want to create this international anti-communist ideology is so that when you go down to Nicaragua and you want to overthrow the government of Nicaragua, well, you can't justify to the American people going down there and overthrowing that government unless you can link it to a greater threat. It's just a little insignificant nation. But if you can link it to a greater threat, then you're justified in overthrowing it. And that's exactly what's happening in Nicaragua. It's not the Nicaraguans fighting to sustain the way of life that they want. It's the Cubans or the Soviets and Cubans who are supporting this regime. And we are therefore, by working against the Nicaraguan government, we are actually thwarting the plan.
And it's crazy how a lot of these times they be like, oh yeah, the Russians are working with this person and these people. But if you think about it, a lot of the times these places can't even fucking reach these other places. So it don't even technically make fucking sense. And I don't even see how people stupid ass fall for stupid shit like that. Like, oh yeah, these communist countries are linking up together. And it's just like that rhetoric is dead. I mean, even back then it was stupid, but it's still alive today. It makes it even more fucking stupid, honestly. They still talking about Russia
justify
hacked. They talking about Russia hacked some type of fucking gas pipeline or some shit. That sounds stupid.
Or was the State
The
Department
fuck?
taken in by the CIA? I think at the very highest levels of government, the National Security Council that directs the agency, probably a very small clique of people knew about it, but certainly at the working levels of the State Department, even Daniel Ellsberg, who I talked to recently, said he had no idea, and he worked on the Boyd paper. He had no idea that this was based on an agency covert operation. This is just one example of thousands that could be brought up. The agency routinely forges. Throw me another one, Andrew. What?
Hey, this reporter funny as hell. Trying to get the scoops on his ass.
I mean, under security restrictions, not to. But look at the white paper in El Salvador. It was based on the discovery of communist documents in El Salvador, and supposedly a leader of a small communist movement had gone around to Vietnam and gone to West Germany, the PLO, all our presumed enemies in the world, and they all promised to support him. This document was discovered all at once, just as Reagan was taking office, and this would form the basis of a white paper on El Salvador. And many critics have pointed out the obvious fallacies within the white paper and the obvious forgery that it was. That's another one. There are examples of doctored photographs that I can't talk about, and the planting of articles is a routine. It's a daily thing that goes on. You have a theme that is developed, the anti-communist ideology.
So when he's talking about this shit, I mean, I'm gonna let him talk. When he's talking about this shit, it's still happening today. Because if you think about the All Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter, and the whole couple of years ago they had like the bathroom things with the mixed gender, whatever they want to call it, shit, bisexual or people not knowing what bathroom to go in and shit like that. It's just crazy shit, right? So all these things and all these different movements to this day, they have counteractive movements to distract you and to put you in mind states to where you can have two different groups of people who hate two different things, so that at any time you can use this energy from these groups of people who hate this shit to justify you destroying some shit that you wouldn't even normally justify, basically. Not even talking about buildings either. I'm not talking about buildings or the political shit either.
There's a uproar, the upheaval of the Cultural Revolution. But there's sort of a playback on this, in that the agency, Foreign Broadcasting
Just talking about
was
subversion.
those broadcasts, and they thought this information to be authentic, and they were disseminating it to the intelligence community, and the intelligence community was estimating the situation based on agency disinformation. Let's pin down something you said a moment ago. Does this covert action exist in the CIA today as greatly as it did in the past? As I understand, the covert action staff is being rebuilt on a massive scale. The director, William Casey, is concentrating all his efforts in rebuilding the staff. And we can assume that it is operating again in academia, in the press, in the religious groups, in international groups, in labor, youth, students. If it isn't now, it will soon will be. In your opinion, is the press manipulated as much today as in the past? I don't think it's as possible to manipulate the press as much today as was in the past. The press is
This
much
was
more
in
cynical, as are the American people in general. It would be more difficult to do it, yet I'm sure that in some areas, of course, it is being manipulated. I think you've answered my question in part already, but the public, in your opinion, cannot be hoodwinked as easily as they were in the past. Is that what you're saying? Right. I don't think they can be hoodwinked as easily. However, some of the illusions of the past continue. And one of those illusions is what the Vietnam War was all about.
And all these other wars to this day.
Press, which you have explained and which you believe still goes on to a degree.
All right. Thank you for sticking around and shit. This has been CDT Reacts. Thank you, Mr. Ralph McGee, former CIA officer, supposedly snitching on the CIA in some way, telling us something that we didn't know back even when he did this interview, you know, which is that's what's up. Appreciate that.